It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent. This Saturday is the 4th of July, and it's a big one. 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. In that time, this country has done extraordinary things. It's built one of the most diverse democracies on earth, a haven where people can speak freely and chase a better life. And it's done real harm. It took land by force, enslaved millions, broke treaties and lives. So here's the hard question this 4th of July. What does it mean to love your country when you're not sure it loves you back? A new Gallup poll finds American pride at its lowest in 25 years. Only a third of Americans say they're extremely proud to be American. And the partisan split is stark. 70% of Republicans versus 14% of Democrats. Michael Taylor is the mayor of Sterling Heights, and he's here to get into all of this with me. Mayor Taylor, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Robyn.
And we want to hear from you. Are you patriotic? Why or why not? And how do you show it? You can give us a call, 313-577-1019. Mayor, the last time we had you on the show, we discussed how you were trying to block ICE from operating in Sterling Heights. And during that time back in February, you had some spicy words to say about what you thought this country is all about.
The all-American country that I know isn't a whitewashed Super Bowl halftime show on some whitewashed network. It is a diverse, beautiful, multinational, multi-ethnic, multicultural tapestry that makes this country the best country in the world. It's because we're not a homogenous group that gives us our strength. That is what America is. And when we see this administration trying to tear it apart, we need to fight for this country. That's the mission. America First means the multicultural, diverse country that we love and enjoy.
Mayor Michael Taylor bringing the heat. I mean, it was that soundbite that made us want to have you back on. So let's start here. What is patriotism to you?
Wow, patriotism, I think, is, if you just go by the dictionary definition, it's expressing a love and a pride in your country. And I think, patriotism is mostly viewed through displaying the flag, displaying a pin on your jacket. If you're a politician like I am, is sort of a standard thing that just outwardly showing that you are proud of the flag, you're proud of our colors, you're proud of the fact that you can say you're an American. And I'm still proud of that. I don't know if I would say extremely proud right now, so I don't know if I'm in that 33%. I'm still proud to be American, and I'm proud to display that and to not shy away from that when I'm either out of the country or around other people. But I can understand why many people right now are feeling less proud of the United States than at any other time of their lives.
How do you balance that frustration and that pride in this moment?
Yeah, I think you wrestle with it. I certainly wrestle with it a lot. Wrestling with the idea that I see the country moving in a direction that's really unfortunate. I don't think there's any secret that I'm a pretty vocal critic of President Trump. But to me, what's most damaging is the way that he's been able to convince people by the millions that the country needs to resist, like I said in that clip earlier, the multiculturalism, the diversity, showing that those are strengths of this country. And it's patriotic to, I think, embrace all the different cultures that we have that make this country great. So in the one sense, I hearken back to when I was a kid. It seemed like we were sort of ingrained in us that the United States is the greatest nation on the earth, that every other country is jealous of what we have, our strength, our economy, our way of life, our freedoms, with the reality that there are many people who look at the United States and say, I don't look at them as a leader of the free world. I look at them as a problem. So I think the only thing you can do is resolve to improve things and resolve to try to make things better here, make it a better society, and live up to the goals that the founders 250 years ago built this country based on.
I mean, I can relate when you talk about this idealistic vision of the U.S. that we learned as kids. But is it perhaps that as we grow up, we become more clear-eyed, more critical, more willing to show dissent, more willing to ask questions? Is it that things have always been really complicated and now in our experience in our adult lives, we're more willing to question that?
Well, certainly we are. But I mean, I would push back on that only because I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she seems to have clear eyes about our country. And her friend groups, they seem to have sort of a better, a more mature view of where the United States ranks in the world. And so I think what took me years and years to come around to is that, you know, our story is more complicated than the mythology that we're often taught. That I think for my daughter, for whatever reason, her and her generation seem to have a better handle on what's actually happening. And I think it's obviously got to be because the news is so accessible. What's happening across the world is, you can see it. When I was in the early 90s, when I was just very young, you know, you'd see maybe 10 seconds of what was going on in Kuwait in that war, right? Now you can watch a war completely unfold in front of your eyes, and you can see stories of the United States, for example, striking a children's school in Iran and killing 150 or more children. Like, those images for my kids and their generation, it's hard to buy into the mythology when you see the reality in front of you.
So you see social media, the way that it has connected us all to what's happening on the other side of the globe, as being a real turning point for younger generations in terms of how they view their country, what they expect from their country. I mean, this is so interesting. I sort of wish your 16-year-old daughter was here with us right now, because I've got a lot of questions for her. I mean, her criticism of the U.S., does it also come with patriotism and pride? Is she feeling very discouraged? It takes time to be able to hold both, and it takes maturity, no?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to speak for her, but I will say I do think that you know, if she spent time thinking about it and considering, you know, would you prefer to live in a different country? Would you prefer to have been born in Europe somewhere or in Asia? Do you think that there are countries that are better than the United States? And more importantly, I think, do you think that the United States provides you and your generation with the ability to make positive change and make progress? I think, and I hope she would say that she would still be proud to be an American, because this is, to me, the best place to create the society that we all want. So I don't know. I can't speak for her, but I think what is interesting is that she's more vocal about it probably than I was when I was 16 years old, about the challenges that our country faces, and, you know, whether or not we're living up to the ideals that I think our founders had 250 years ago. So it's a great time to reflect on it.
Okay, let's pivot back to you. We've got a little bit of the younger perspective now, thanks to your daughter, who's hopefully listening right now. I want to point out, you're nonpartisan as a mayor, but you used to vote Republican. And then in 2020, you began endorsing Democrats. Where do you see patriotism showing up in our politics on a partisan level? And I want to start with the right.
Yeah, I think the right, the Republican Party, the MAGA movement has really embraced it. But I think that's not unique to the MAGA movement. I think the Republican Party, for as long as I can remember, has been more open about talking about patriotism. I mean, a code word on the right is to refer to somebody as a patriot. If you refer to somebody as a patriot on the right, then that's sort of a code word for they're with us. They're also conservative. They're also voting for Republicans. They believe in Republican ideals. So I think the right has sort of co-opted the word patriot, and in my sense is that people on the left are hesitant to use it because of how ingrained it is in sort of the conservative culture in the United States.
I have talked to folks on the left who are sad about this idea. They feel like they can't wear the flag. They can't embrace it because they feel like it's been co-opted by the right. What do you think about that? How do you change that? How do you turn this into something? And by this, I mean patriotism and pride for your country, but also a push for it to do better. How do you make that a nonpartisan issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Republican Party, I don't want to get into political punditry too much, but I think the Republican Party is very good at messaging, and I think the Democratic Party is very bad at messaging. I think the Republicans win the messaging war with every election, whether or not the election results bear that out. Democrats, in my opinion, need to get better at messaging and better at showing that being a patriot and being patriotic, embracing the flag, embracing the colors, embracing the spirit of the United States of America is not only just good in terms of building unity, I think it's good politics too. So I'm not an advisor to the Democratic Party, but I would say to any politician that's running for a seat in the United States, whether you're far to the left or a moderate, embrace the patriotism, embrace the flag, talk about how great this country is and how great this country can be in a way that resonates with voters. Because ultimately, I think, the patriotism, this culture that we have here in the United States is unique. I think there are things about it to be proud of. And I think the Democratic Party should just forget about the fact that the Republicans seem to have hijacked that term and take it back.
Well, Mayor Taylor, I think one thing you're touching on here is one of the identifying markers of nationalism. There's equality, there's liberty, and there's fraternity. And people on the left think a lot about equality and liberty, but not so much about fraternity. That's what you're describing, especially with people they disagree with. So give me an example. What does creating fraternity with people who don't think like you look like?
You see it every day, right? You see it absolutely every day. When you're walking through the grocery store and you pick something up off the ground that somebody else dropped, you're not identifying them as a Trump supporter. You're not identifying them as a socialist. You're just identifying them as another human being who lives in this country, who shares values with me, who shares the same culture as me, who listens to the same music and watches the same movies and understands the customs and habits in this country, which are vastly different than any other country. And so that shared experience, I think, is enough. That's the fraternity that I think you're talking about. Little things like that. When I go to a sporting event and, we saw it at the U.S. soccer game last night, tens of thousands of people supporting the United States soccer team. It doesn't matter what political party they're from. It doesn't matter what ethnicity or religion they're from. It's sharing this vision that the United States can be an example and it can be great. And I think that, unless you really get into a political conversation with somebody, you don't know what their background is, what their beliefs are, and that's okay. So I think that getting back to this idea that we are all one nation, regardless of whether you vote Republican or Democrat, and it's tough because I have a lot of friends that look at, MAGA, for example, and say, I don't respect them. I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I try to push back on that and say, even though I disagree with the politics, I know that these people have families. I know that they go to church or they go to the mosque. I know that they are charitable. I know they're hardworking. I know that they contribute to society and their community. I can embrace that aspect while also rejecting the politics.
I like that you bring up sports because in this moment that feels so highly divisive and almost explosive. It feels like sports have the potential to heal us, to heal society, because they do bring people together from all walks of life, all political persuasions, to enjoy this shared experience. What happens when you don't have that shared experience?
Well, I think what you see is that we get more and more divided. And I think for a long time now, there has been a big split in terms of the population. Like we see things now in a way. What I'm trying to explain is, like, I can watch a news story unfold, and then somebody else can watch the same news story unfold and have completely different realities of what happened. We can watch the exact same thing. So how do we bring the country back to these shared values? I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but I think that, this 250th anniversary of the country is a good time to take a step back and say, what was this country founded for? What are we doing here? We don't need this form of government. We could have a different form of government. And it's actually, the fact that it's existed for 250 years is amazing. Do we want this? Do we want to continue this experiment? Do we want to keep on the upward trajectory, or do we want to go in a different direction? And so I think it's important to take stock of that right now and recognize that we're sort of on a precipice between which direction we're going to go. If we don't get more unified, if we don't go back to some set of shared values and shared truth, then I think it's going to be a dangerous path we're on.
It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent. My guest is Sterling Heights Mayor Michael Taylor. Ahead of July 4th and the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, we're discussing what patriotism looks like today and how to be patriotic when you're unhappy with the state of the country. And we want to hear from you. Are you patriotic? What do you do to show it? The number is 313-577-1019. Mayor, take me to Sterling Heights right now. Tell me what patriotism looks like there.
Look, I think we have a very patriotic population in Sterling Heights. I think we celebrate Memorial Day, for example, was the last big event in Sterling Heights, and thousands of people line the streets wearing American flags, waving American flags. We have a ceremony that's well attended by members of the public and by politicians from throughout the state. Recognizing that this country was built on the sacrifices of men and women who fought and died for our country. I think our residents take that very seriously. They wave the flags. Flags are displayed on a lot of homes in Sterling Heights. We're going to have a 250th anniversary celebration on July 8th with a reading of the Declaration of Independence, and I expect that that'll be well attended and supported. I think there's this spirit in Sterling Heights that even though things are bad on a national political level, we're not going to let that impact how we treat our neighbors, how we maintain our city, and how we show our support for the United States. And so many people, it's very common to see people with flags at their houses, American flag apparel on, American flag hats, displaying, if they're members of the military, proudly displaying that. I'm proud to serve in that community, and I'm proud that this is a patriotic town that I live in.
And it is a town of immigrants, no? And yes. I wonder how much you see that playing into patriotism and pride for the U.S. overall.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because the single largest ethnic group in Sterling Heights is the Chaldean population. So these are Christian Iraqis who, many of whom in Sterling Heights, and my sense is that the Sterling Heights community is a little bit newer to the United States than some of the communities in Bloomfield and on the western side of Metro Detroit. And so they're relatively new to the country. Their Chaldeans have large families. And in my opinion, they are some of the most patriotic Americans that I meet. They love the United States. They love the opportunity, but they're able to hold on to that Iraqi culture and that Chaldean culture and their customs. And so I think they're a perfect example of how you can blend love for the United States of America with a love for your origin and your roots and where you came from. So being a multicultural city doesn't in any way, in my opinion, mean we would be less patriotic. In many ways, I think the immigrant populations that have come to the United States, they chose this country. You know, I didn't choose the United States. I was lucky enough to be born here. Other people chose this place. And I think we can find inspiration from them to say, why did they come here? Why did they settle here? For the opportunity, for the freedom, for the liberty, for the ability to practice their religion freely. These are ideas that we should all embrace and be proud of and support. And you know, the United States red, white, and blue flag is a symbol of that freedom. So it's not surprising to me at all that a city with a high immigrant population would be very patriotic.
I mean, you're painting a picture here that sounds like Sterling Heights is this microcosm of America's past, like a time when we think about the people who fought their way to Ellis Island and they said, this is the place that I want to be. And they let go of jobs and opportunities to be here in the U.S. How do you think more Americans can shift their perspectives to feel some of that?
Yeah, I think we always focus on the negative, right? It's much easier to focus on the negative than the positive. And I think we're overwhelmed with negative images right now. I mean, we're overwhelmed. As I said last time I was here in February, I could go on my phone and spend the whole day watching videos of police officers and ICE agents attacking and terrorizing on communities and separating families. And, we can say, look, it would be natural for immigrant populations to hate this country and think that they can't trust the government and they should just leave and say good riddance to the United States. But there's still a reason that they were drawn here. And even despite all of our faults and all of our problems, there's still a reason why this country is a destination for people across the world. I think we should focus on those things more, talk about those things more, and certainly embrace the spirit of why they're coming here in the first place. So it may be cliche, but I try to balance the positive with the negative, that even when there's bad going on in our country, and even when I don't like the direction that this administration is taking us and I feel discouraged about things, I'm still encouraged because I think the foundations are there, that we have a society with the type of constitution and judicial system and government that positive things can happen. We just need people to come around to it.
We wouldn't be able to have this discussion in many other countries right now. So that's something as well, I think, for all of us to take away from this, and certainly something perhaps for your daughter to think about too. I'm grateful that we are able to have this back and forth with you today. Mayor Michael Taylor of Sterling Heights, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Robyn.
It's the Metro on WDET. Coming up, what patriotism means in this moment to someone who immigrated here. We'll be right back on the Metro. Stay with us.